Hello and welcome to part 2 of the disappointing sunset series. In part 1 I went out to shoot a sunset. Despite having looked at the weather reports, the weather forecasts and everything looked like it was pretty good, it actually wasn't that exciting. It didn't quite deliver. So we shot the sunset anyway because I wanted to explore the possibilities of whether or not you can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. It wasn't a great original, and I believe you need a great original to make a really great shot in the post-production. You can't totally rescue it just in the post-production unless you want to get into the whole realm of Photoshop, digital art, doing some massive changes. I don't. I just want to do my basic post-production. Now I get messages every day from people saying I don't want to do any post-production, I just want to take a camera, I just want to take a photo straight out of the camera, I don't want to have to mess about. But here's the thing. When you shoot in JPEG, your camera shoots a RAW file, which is all the data. It then hands it to the camera's onboard processor to make a JPEG for you. So some level of post-production is being done. It just means that the camera's doing it and not you doing it. I prefer to do my own post-production because I know how I want the shot to look. I'll talk a bit more about that when we get into looking at the files. Now what I'm going to do is go through post-production, see what I could do to rescue the not very good sunset shot, but I also want to show you what I did with a shot that was taken in the right place at the right time when conditions were perfect. This is all about that little bit of polishing which goes onto a RAW file to get the shot exactly how you want it to look, but also to make it look natural, because as you're going to see, RAW files on their own are usually pretty dull. They don't look terribly inspiring or exciting. So if you want to shoot something straight out of the camera without post-production, I would say the only way you can do that is to shoot a RAW file and then export it as a JPEG without doing anything to it. More on that in a moment. If you find this video useful, please click in a few likes, subscribe to my YouTube channel and put any comments you have below. If you've got any questions, any thoughts, please, we'd love to hear them. Also, all my YouTube videos are also available for free on my website. Some say it's easier to find your way around them there. You can sign up to my newsletter and I'll just send you an email once every couple of weeks when a new video goes live so you don't miss anything. So I guess the next step, let's go take a look at these RAW files. For that we need Lightroom. Here we go. This is a shot that was taken in the right conditions at the right time of day. And I just want to quickly show you what the RAW file looks like. So here's the undeveloped RAW file, here's the developed one. As I've said, you could let your camera do that development for you, but is it going to make it look like this? We don't really know, do we? What I will do at a later date is make a video. I'm going to shoot some RAWs and I'm going to shoot JPEGs, and then I think it'd be quite interesting just to compare what the camera makes out of the RAW file compared to what I would make out of it for myself. But let's go take a look at the rather boring and disappointing sunset. I have marked this one in red because that's the one I want to work with. As you can see, it's a pretty dull looking image. That is our RAW file. Let's go back to single view, sorry. There's our RAW file. That's what has come out of the camera untouched, and this was what I did to sort of try and pimp it up a bit, but I think as you can see it's nothing like as exciting as this shot because the conditions weren't right. This was a calm still day. We've got nice reflections. It was at a different time of the year, so the sun is further round to the left. The one we're actually going to develop is this one because it's the same set of trees. If you look, the sun is between the two here. When I shot this one I couldn't get them in between these two, you know, it was in that gap in this shot. We'll come back to that. How do we develop this and try and make it look something like that? Where would I begin? Well, the first thing I do is I'd level it up a bit. That horizon isn't quite straight, so I'm just going to pop in here and I'm just going to put a teensy little bit of a tilt onto that just to get it straightened up a bit. That's better. I had my camera very slightly at an angle. Sorry, I'm a little bit anally retentive about that one. The next thing I'm going to do is start with the highlights. Let's just pull those down. Let's see if we can get a bit more information in the highlights. You can see the histogram up there on the right. That's kind of moving around. You see it's moving off to the left as I'm pulling that down. So let's take those down to about here. Get a little bit of shadow detail going on by lifting up the shadows. Better. Let's check our whites and blacks. This is our contrast control. I know there's a slider here, but this is where I tend to do it. If you press the Alt key, and then click on the slider, we get a black screen, and as you move that white slider you see areas that are burnt out. Now there are situations where there are burnt highlights. Lots of people will tell you, no, 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 you mustn't have a burnt out highlight. But if you look at the sun with your eyes, burnt out, isn't it? It's completely natural looking to have that burnt out. There are some things that do burn out. Sparkles on the sea, the sun, for example. Something's burnt out, so I don't really have a problem with it. You may disagree, that's completely fine. Let's have a look at our blacks. Same process, press the Alt key, take the black slider, just kind of have a look around what sort of shadows. We've got very shadowy stuff going on. I'm just going to have a hint of shadow there. This is just a starting place because we're going to be moving backwards and forwards. You do a bit, you change a bit. It's a very painterly kind of a thing, you know, it's the creative process going on here. Vibrancy and colour, I'm just going to pimp in a little bit of vibrancy and colour. Let's take that to about 15. Let's type it in, 15, then I know they're the same. Already it's starting to look a little bit more interesting. Look at that, you see? This is the untouched raw. We've started to bring a little bit of life to it. There's more we can do yet. The danger in these situations is going too far, going bonkers with it. I don't want to go bonkers with it. I like things to look relatively natural. There's a great little tool that lives right down the bottom in Lightroom, and that is the dehaze tool. I'm just going to push a little bit of dehaze in there because, as you can see, if you go mad, it starts to go like that. I don't like that one little bit, but I am going to lift the dehaze in just a bit, and then we're going to do a few more painterly strokes and see where we go. The sky, I'm going to bring a grad filter down into the sky. I just want to darken that area up there and see what we can do. Let's pull it on down, and I'm just going to run it just above the sun because I don't want to affect the shadows more than I have to, and then fade it. Grab the bottom line and drag it in like that. One way you can change things is to move the slider. You can also use the arrow keys on the keyboard. If you just mouse over the numbers, I'm just going to slowly use my keystrokes and just kind of start darkening that in a bit. That's a bit better, isn't it? Look, I'm not even half a stop, less exposure, and it's starting to look a bit better. I think that will probably do for that. Now what about the foreshore? What should we do here? Well, there's a few little catch lights here which could look quite nice, possibly. I'm not so sure about the puddle idea after all. Now I'm seeing it in the computer. I could of course just crop it off and just take it into about there somewhere, which maybe looks better. I will make that call later. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Apologies. That's better. What could we do with this foreshore? Because I do like the catch lights, I do like the little highlights here, but they're not very strong, they're not great. We could do this, I think, probably with another grad filter, just bring it up from the bottom. There we go, and just kind of move it around, line it up a bit with the edge there, possibly a little higher, make it a little harder edged because I don't want it to leak too far into the water. Something like that maybe. Pick that up. There we go. We're getting there. So we could just increase the exposure a bit. Again, I like to work using my keys. So we've got a little bit more light on the grass. We can make the highlights on the grass a little brighter, make the whites a little brighter. That will help. And we can pull the shadows down a bit. We're kind of like increasing the contrast on the grass. Oh, I've gone too far. The old computer had a little bit of a moment there. I think that's looking better. I think that's looking better. Let's just come out of there, have a look at our before and after. As you can see, we've got a bit more grassy detail going on here. I'm still not convinced about my idea to include that puddle. Retrospectively, I'm not sure it's great. I might just kind of bring in a radial filter here and just kind of run it up that light path and spread that out a little more. And I might even brighten that a bit more. Now I know you're going to say, whoa, 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 there's burnt highlights there. I know there are. Let's just make them a bit more burnt because it increases the visibility of the light path. I'm just going to take the highlights down a bit. That's better. There we go. I think that's looking nicer. Let's just spread it out a bit more feathery. May even increase the saturation in there a bit. So there's a bit more of the orange coming from the sun. Let's just drag that across instead of faffing about with little steps and numbers. Sorry, your computer's going a bit slow. You see, as I drag that over there, I can put a lot of orange in there. I think that's too much. It looks too unnatural. It looks like it's been fiddled with. It doesn't just look like a colourful scene. There we go. That's probably as far as we could go. I don't know if there's any detail going on in these trees over here. There's not a lot. I don't think there's much point doing brushwork in here. I might just run a second grad filter down across the top of the sky, because there's no reason why you can't layer filters. Here we go. Let's just do that and soften it, because I just like to maybe make the top a little darker so it balances up more with the dark grass in the foreground. There we go. That's better. So we haven't got that bright sky. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. I think there's probably, we could do with a little more blue in there. I'm just going to start sneaking down some more blue, get a bit more blue into the shot. That's okay. Yep. That's probably about as far as I go. And then, of course, your choice to crop or not to crop. I might just snip that off there, because I do think it's rather irritating. I think it looks a little bit better like that, although there's now a bit of an empty gap here. It's not a great shot. We've done something to rescue it. You can take this as far as you want. You can fiddle with it till you're blue in the face. I've now gone and clicked that into the wrong place. Here we go. But there's our before and after. We've got something out of it. We salvaged something. And if you're on holiday, if you've gone somewhere a bit special, you made a particular effort to go to an amazing location, and you get the disappointment that happened in part one of this film, at least you can rescue something if you've shot a raw file and you make your own JPEG. Let's go take a look up here at the shot that was taken in really perfect conditions. The raw file is kind of unexciting, as you might expect, but if you look at the histogram up here, you can see that most of the data's there. There's a little spike on the right. That is where the sun has burnt out. Sun's burnt out. Don't panic about it. We've got some very heavy storm clouds coming in round to the right here. I mean, I was just so lucky to get that. I didn't expect to get that beautiful sort of curved shape going on. But, you know, this is an element of luck as well. I knew there was no wind, I knew there was going to be a sunset, and you know, everything was kind of cool. In fact, I was up there with Mr. Stephen Bray, who came on a one-on-one day with me. If you're watching this, Steve, it was a brilliant time, and I know you've got these shots too, so that was awesome. Let's have a look. What would I do with it? I would start in the same place. I would again begin by just pulling those highlights down. Let's get a little bit more stuff going on around that sun. Let's get that pimped in a bit. Look at that. I've got to go all the way because the contrast range is vast on this shot. Now let's see if we can get a little bit more life into the shadows. Here we go. Look, you see, we're already getting some life into it. Before and after. Oof, lovely. Now what can we do? Well, I would say overall exposure can come up. We've got a space in our histogram, so let's just, again, I'm going to use my arrow keys because I prefer to do that. Let's start lifting that exposure. Look, 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 look. Look at all that extra detail we've suddenly got going on in there. Quick bit of before and after for you. Ooh, you're beginning to see the power of making your own JPEGs. Now let's just press the Alt key and check our whites. We move to the right. Where does it go and burn out? There we go. There's our burnt sun. The sun's going to burn anyway, so I don't mind. I'm just going to let it burn. What's our blacks doing? We've got a lot of shadow going on. Let's just take it to about there. Okay, we're getting better. I'm going to bung in maybe 20 vibrance and 20 saturation. Why 20? There's no real reason, it's just a starting point. You can move these around. As I say, it's a painterly thing. Work with your brush strokes. Go forward, do a bit, change something, move back. You may find you've overdone it. Take it away again. Quick bit of before and after for you. You see what I mean? We're really making a difference, and this was a great shot. Something I've immediately noticed is up here, there's a dust spot on my sensor. So here's a great little tool. Let's just click on there. And Lightroom will take care of it for me. Dust spot gone. Excellent. Now what should we do? Now what about the sky? What could we do with that? Well, I'm going to pop a grad onto this shot, but I'm going to do it slightly differently because I'm going to bring it in from the side. Who says you got to go who says you got to go across with a grad? I'm just going to bring this across here because there is such exposure difference between the two sides. Let's just ease that in. And then just ease the exposure on the left down a bit. So look at that. Look, look, look. You see, we're now sort of starting to make it all look a little bit more natural. I don't want to go mad because I don't want it to be totally different, but just slightly less than half a stop. And again, let's have a look at before and after. See the difference we're getting into this. And I haven't done anything completely bonkers. I'm going to run another grad down across these clouds because I'd like to get a little bit more oomph into there. Just take it down, and again I just want it to filter through the sun, not madly. That's showing me the area that's graded. If I take my cursor away, that red thing goes away. Let's just add a bit of dehaze to the sky. Look how moody that's making the sky. Now don't go mad with dehaze because it'll look bonkers. That's not my sort of a thing. Let's just take it about here. Look at that. Maybe make the sky a hint darker. There we go. That's starting to look really nice. What else? Now I'd like to pimp this reflection a bit, so let's take a brush. This is the equivalent of hand printing, really. Think of handprints made in a darkroom. I don't know if you ever had anything to do with it, but you'd put your hands in the light path of the enlarger. You'd darken areas by burning in, getting a bit more light onto the baseboard, onto the paper. You brighten areas by dodging it out. It's really all I'm doing here. It's just that I'm doing it in a computer. Now I'm just going to show selected masks because I want to see where I'm putting a mask. I want to just kind of run it around this area here, but I don't want to do too much in this bright area. So let's just run that across here. I haven't got enough flow going on. Let's just increase the flow because I want to run this at 100%. Here we go. We'll take it into that edge. I don't want it to go onto the shoreline too much, so I'm just going to reduce my feather a bit as I come in along here. There we go, and round the bottom and across to about there. Now I want a lot more feather again, so let's give it as much feather as I can and make the brush bigger. Right square bracket, because I want it to be a very soft sort of gradation into this area. There we go, look how soft and lovely that is. Make the brush size smaller again. Now I got the softness, reduce the feather, just kind of brush in this area here to fill it up, because I want to know that I'm covering the area of the shot that I want to work on. This is just showing me where I'm working, and I want to zoom in, so spacebar, zoom in, because I want to just make sure I get this little bit in around here. I don't want to miss that bigger feather. I want it to be a soft kind of a, there we go, look at that bad boy. Awesome, good. Turn off the mask overlay so I can see what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is dehaze it. I'm going to add a little bit of dehaze. That's made it stronger. I'm going to increase the exposure a bit. Look how much better that reflection has suddenly become. What a difference. That is perfect. I'm not going any further than that. That's pretty much all there is. We could maybe do a bit of, excuse me, a little bit of work on these highlights. You can see along the shoreline there's a bit of sunshine, there's a bit of light coming through the trees. So what about that? Well, we can work on that with a brush. Let's take a brush again, let's overlay it. Let's just kind of work along this shoreline, a little bit less feather, slightly larger brush. Let's just see what we can do. Let's just paint this in very gently and very quickly. You might take a little bit more care doing this yourself. Take the brush size down and just paint into there. Zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. Brush size up. You see how you're moving around, playing with these tools all the time, just sort of working your way through the picture. I'm just going to bring it across here, and I might just touch on that tree because it's got some nice highlights on it. And across the bottom here, maybe touch on that tree a bit. Reduce the brush slightly. I love this highlight running across the shore. So I'm just going to click in here. Here's a little thing for you. If you click and then shift click, you've got a straight line. Look at that. Awesome. And I'm just going to take it across to, I think, there and there. Maybe pimp in a little bit around there on the tops of those trees. You've got to be very careful going around the edges of trees. I would take more care if I was doing this, but you don't want to watch me faff and fiddle and change brush sizes. But you want to be very careful doing this because otherwise you'll get a halo running around the edges of those trees and it won't look good. Right, zoom back out. Now what are we going to do? Well, I think I'm actually just going to lift the highlights a bit. Look, can you see how it's changing the highlights? Look down here on the lake shore here. If I push the white slider, you see how it's making the whites brighter. Let's just lift the highlights a bit, because I don't want to go mad, I just want to make them stand out more. I might lift the exposure a hint. That's about all. And I may even push the shadows down a bit just to make them more moody. Look at that. I would say that is about right. I don't think there's anything more it needs. Let's have a look at a before and after. There you go. But the main thing is you've got to be in the right place at the right time. Because when we worked on this shot here, it's still, sorry, let's go back to full size, is nothing like as interesting as this one here. It's of the same trees on the same place, but because of the moody skies, because of the stillness in the water, the reflections, the way the light's just catching the shoreline, it is a much more interesting shot. Sure, we've rescued it a bit, but it ain't never going to measure up to that one. You can, of course, take this as far as you want. You can do an awful lot more work on that raw file if you wanted to. But I just want to show you the sort of the foundation of what I did to try and rescue something, because those times when you do go somewhere exotic, you're on holiday, you're in Greece, you're in wherever it may be, visiting pyramids and things, and you've just got the most appalling, dreadful, flat everything. If you shoot your raws, you can rescue it to some extent. Now, I've got a course out called 7 Steps to Workflow Mastery. This is about setting up Lightroom, because if you use Lightroom, if you're going to buy Lightroom, it comes with a default setting which installs itself into your computer, and that's great because it needs somewhere to begin. But personally, I don't think it's the best way, because you can often find yourself losing images, or Lightroom will tell you an image is missing and you're not quite sure where things are. So it's best to get your computer set up with a proper workflow system, and then you'll never lose an image. You know where everything is and everything just works brilliantly. I will be producing 7 Steps to Perfect Pictures, which is about developing what we've just done here later on this year, so just keep an eye on this space. You'll find out about it if you're interested. So there you go, guys. I hope you found that useful. As I say, leave us any comments, any thoughts, ask any questions by all means. Click in a few likes and share the videos. I'll see you next time. Take care, have fun.